All right, so welcome back, Elaine, to the Zoom room for another Art of Letting Go live session. So let's start off with your question. If you want to just ask that question again about psychic powers, and
Yeah,
we
it
can
was
have a
just
look at what the course says.
just after watching this series about the NDEs, there's another episode, but it's on mediums, ghosts, and psychics. And I just
Oh,
wondered what the course says about the subject.
yeah, well, he does address it in the Manual for Teachers. So
And I
we
can't
covered.
vaguely remember it, but again, yeah, it just shows you
Yeah, we
how.
covered it in December, I think. This was
Yes,
about
it wasn't too far ago. Yes, but
a
yeah,
month ago, about
need,
6 weeks ago. But
yeah,
yeah,
need another
it's
reminder.
if it's a question, we can have a look. So let's jump into that, shall we? I'll share my screen. Where are we? Share screen. Okay. Yeah. So the question is, are psychic powers desirable? That's the question he addresses in this section. So I think it's about five paragraphs. So shall we read it?
Yeah.
Five, six paragraphs, is it? Yeah, 6 paragraphs. Okay, so if you want to
In the alternative,
read
yeah.
paragraph one, yeah, I don't think there's too much to translate, so just do it in the alternative.
The answer to this question is much like the preceding one. There are, of course, no unnatural powers, and I am obviously merely appealing to magic when I make up a power that does not exist. However, it is equally obvious that I have many abilities of which I am unaware. As my awareness increases, I may well develop abilities that seem quite startling to me. Yet nothing I can do can compare even the slightest with the glorious surprise of remembering who I am. Therefore, I let all my learning and efforts be directed towards this one great final surprise, and I will not be content to be delayed by the little ones that may come to me along the way. Yes, so it's not saying, well, saying there is a possibility. It is possible
Yeah,
to have these psychic powers,
yeah.
but not in the unnatural way where we're appealing to magic.
Hmm.
It's more of our awareness.
You can
It's when
get
our
these quite
awareness.
startling abilities. These quite startling abilities can come. They're called siddhis or powers in the East. You know, various levitation, telepathy, telekinesis, healing powers, etc. You know, miraculous powers that come with advanced
Mhm.
spiritual practice.
So
But he's
you
saying
do believe,
nothing. Hmm?
so you do believe that mediums can get in touch with those that have passed and speak to their
Yeah,
loved one.
I mean, he'll discuss it, you know, in more detail as we go into this. But
Oh
yeah,
yes.
I mean, he's saying there's a very small range of channels in this world.
Mm.
Many psychic powers are clearly in line. You know that communication is not limited to the small range of channels the world recognizes because
Mm.
it's all mind. So if it's all mind, whether they are corporeal or incorporeal, they're in the domain of mind. You're not really separate from them. That's the whole point. So just
Mm.
because they're not physically here doesn't mean they're not here. They just
Yes.
incorporeal. They have no physical form.
Yeah.
So psychics just merely recognize that and understand that there's this whole other realm in
Hmm.
mind, And psyche comes from the Greek meaning mind. Just in mind. That's not physical. It, you know, transcends it. And
So have you ever
you know,
had a
as we just
reading? Sorry, have you ever
have
had
I
a reading?
ever had
A reading,
a
or
psychic
have you?
reading?
Yeah, because I mean, you get the charlatans that, you know, the gypsies in their little what
Oh,
do you call
no,
it?
not, you know, like once you get to the course, you're like, well, you know, that's, as he says, that's not what happens on the level of form is not really what it's about. You know,
Right.
nothing I do can compare even in the slightest with the glorious surprise of remembering who I am. You know, you
Mm,
start going into truth. It's fundamental identity. It's who you really are. It's not about someone telling your fortune or telling you what's going to happen in time
mm,
and space. I had a once I did a session with an astrologer,
yeah.
and he was, you know, he was quite good. There was maybe something to it. But would I go back? No, I tried it because a friend had recommended him, and I thought, well, you know, I'm interested in modalities. I don't really know that much about astrology. So okay,
Hmm.
I'll go, you know, it's like check it out, do some research, you know. Yes, it was a personal session. Was it helpful? Yeah, maybe, but was it anything that I couldn't have got from my own internal guidance? No, not really.
Mm, mm,
No, the Holy Spirit will guide you accordingly.
right.
So that's where the course is taking us. He's saying you don't need, you know, astrology or psychic powers or, you know, someone with apparently special
Mediums.
powers to guide. The whole point is you're guided by the Holy Spirit, and it's, you know, it will guide you in your next step. Today I was supposed to have a presentation on Friday in a little country called Lesotho with a government minister, and we're not even close to ready. I was going, I really don't know how this is going to work
Mm,
because we've got to do this, you know, quite a big presentation and financial models, and I've got to drive down there tomorrow, so that's, you know, half the day gone. I just don't know how this is going to work. So I just asked for guidance. I was like, okay, well, you know, it's in your hands.
mm,
And I felt relaxed about it in my meditation. Like, okay, well, you know, we'll see. And I get up and there's a message on my phone from the guy I'm dealing with. Please call me. So I go, okay, the first thing I'll do is call him because I had a feeling something had changed. He said, oh, I've got really bad news. I'm like, yeah, tell me. No, the guy can't now make it on Friday. So he said he wants to postpone it till the following week because there's a mining in Durban in Cape Town where he's going. So I said, well, hang on, let's think laterally. Why don't we just go and see him in Cape Town? It's much easier. Then we don't have to drive down. We just fly. And he's definitely going to be there because who's anyone in the mining industry is there for this week. And, you know, we can see him afterwards. So, yeah, we just got it arranged, which gave us more time. Got it arranged for Monday
mm,
instead
that's
of
good.
Friday. So that gives us 3 more days to prepare and
So it's
less
worked out.
time having to drive. And yeah, I wasn't sure how we're going to get down because we had to borrow a car, but then in a car, you know, potentially liable, there's potholes, and if something goes wrong, then who pays the insurance excess? So
Right.
I was like, okay, the Holy Spirit just rerouted it, sorted it out. And who knows, you know, I mean, this is like in certainly Africa, this is the week for mining. Anyone comes to it. So
Hmm.
who knows what, you know, synchronicities and connections might happen while we're there. You
Mm,
just don't know.
mm.
So
So that was your guidance.
yeah, and that's, you know, you don't need any psychic powers. You just
Yes.
are. It's a trust. It's like, okay, I completely trust. You know, there's a way. I'm not
Mm,
panicking. There's always a way. Stay calm. You know, and there is a way. And then things get redirected. I also had to sort out tax return today, so it's like, how am I going to do all of it? You know, it's like, and you can start feeling overwhelmed. But fortunately, with this mind training, you say, no, I'm not going to feel overwhelmed. I'm going to hand it over to the Holy Spirit, and it's going to give me the guidance, and it'll show the way. And often that means something external changes, as you know, as happened. Um, so it said before you do anything, just call him because that's going to I just had a feeling. So we've all got these, we've all got this to a certain extent, these psychic powers. And
which is
as
our
we go more
it's
into
our
spirit,
guidance.
develop.
Yeah. But what about those who are grieving and they just would love to feel communicated with their loved ones? Is that anything to do with the
Yeah.
course?
Well, I mean, he's saying, well, let's carry on reading. This is what he
Yeah.
says.
Okay.
Certainly, there are many psychic powers that are clearly
Yeah.
in line with this course.
Certainly, there are many psychic powers that are clearly in line with this course. Communication is not limited to the small range of channels the world recognizes. If it were, there would be little point in trying to teach awakening. It would be impossible to do so. The limits the world places on communication are the chief barriers to direct experience of the remembrance of perfect love, whose presence is always there and whose voice I can always hear if I so choose. These limits are placed out of fear, for without them the barriers that surround all the separate places of the world would fall at the pure sound of its voice. Whoever transcends these limits in any way is merely becoming more natural. They are doing nothing special, and there is no magic, and their accomplishments.
Oh,
So,
no magic
yes.
in their accomplishments. So,
So
yeah.
again, yeah.
Thoughts on that?
Well, it's our only limited awareness that's blocking us from being able to tune into these channels, these psychic channels. It's nothing special. They will be revealed once you transcend the limit itself. It's the limits,
Exactly.
our separate self and fear that's blocking our awareness of these psychic powers, as it were.
Yeah. So
yeah, so that's just needed that confirmed, because this is very interesting, these varying episodes, and it was on mediums and ghosts, and there was a lady in particular. So I thought, not sure about that. I've always been a bit skeptical, so just needed to look into
remember,
that.
it's all still illusion. Whatever happens in this world, whether it's seemingly in form where you've got ghosts or entities, it's all illusion. It's just part of the matrix, part of the dream. What transcends it, pure formless awareness of perfect love transcends all that. There's no separate entities, there's no ghosts, there's no special psychic powers. It's just pure formless awareness of perfect love, and that's all there is in heaven. So whatever goes on here is just part of the illusion, even if it seems to be psychic. And it can be as he goes on to explain, it can be a great temptation for people to go, oh, this is the truth. Now I've got psychic ability, I can see into another realm, and I can go astral traveling, and I can meet all these amazing beings on another level, and they get, they believe that that's reality. But it's not. Just another level of the illusion.
You're right, yeah. So so the episode with the medium there, I mean, she was sorry, I'm sorry, there's somebody at the door. Can I just lock my door? Sorry, I do apologize. I'll have to.
Okay, mute yourself. Just wait a few seconds.
Right. Okay. I'm back.
You back, Elaine?
Yeah. Oh, hi. Yeah, no, I'm back now. Yeah, it's all sorted.
Right, you've looked.
Yep. Okay. Yep. Yep. That's good. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So he's saying these, these limits aren't really true. They aren't really real. These limits are placed out of fear, out in the barriers that surround all the separate places of the world before the pure sound of its voice. So when you start transcending these limits in any way, you're just becoming more natural. There's nothing special. There's no magic in it. Your mind is just starting to wake up to who and what it really is.
So
And then these kinds of psychic powers can come as a result of that awakening process.
So can the psychic powers those see into somebody's, like if they've had a lost loved one and they can say their name and how it happened, and is this possible? Yeah.
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 Very possible, because it's all in mind. So it's held somewhere in mind. A psychic can just tap into that.
Right.
Kind of tap into the level of mind, the morphic field, Rupert Sheldrake calls it. And they can pick it up. They can pick up thoughts, emotions, feelings, because it's all there in mind as thought.
Right.
So they pick it up, they tap in, like they download.
So they've transcended their limited self and gone beyond so that's how they inevitably got these powers, right?
Yeah. To some extent. Some people are born with these channels open. And it doesn't mean they're perfectly enlightened. They might still have, generally they do, their own lessons to learn. But it means that they're less restricted. They've broken free of some of the limits of this world. As he says, they're just becoming more natural. So if we're all awakened, we would have a world where we didn't need any of this, what we currently do, speaking and writing and all this communication technology that we've invented, because we just communicate telepathically. Right. Like, well, if I want to speak to someone, I just tap in and I speak to them in thought.
Right. Interesting.
And that is possible. Telepathic communication is,
Oh yes, no, I've heard of it since I was a child, but never really sure whether I believed it or what it was. But many people got great comfort from it, speaking to their loved ones who'd already passed. So just I mean, I've been to these.
Just speaking to someone else. I mean, today here's an interesting example. So Deborah calls me. My phone was on mute. Something told me at the moment she was calling to pick up my phone. What tells me to pick up my phone at that moment?
Right.
How did I know she was calling? But on some level, I must have, because I picked it up at the moment she was calling. It was like, okay, well, then I'll just accept the call. But my phone was on mute. So that's some kind of intuition prompting. And most people have, some of this ability. We've all done it. Oh, you've thought of someone and then they call.
Sooner, yes. Yeah, that's true. Yes.
These kinds of things are quite common.
Or deja vu or those kind of things.
Yeah. So I think we all have some experience, even if you're not
Yes.
massive psychic. You know, you can go, well, how did I know today Deborah's calling? I don't know. Something said pick up your phone. And I did. Maybe people, the skeptics would go, well, that was just fluke. No, it was just pure chance. Okay. But if you look at how many times those chances happen, is that random? No, it would seem to be more than random. And Rupert Sheldrake has done a lot of research on these kinds of things, telepathy, telekinesis, and so on, to establish, are these actually more than just random? And he's saying, no, the evidence is overwhelming that they are far more than just random. We all have these kinds of things, and they happen far more frequently than just random occurrences. So they're not random. There's clearly a principle involved behind them. Now, the pure scientific materialists deny that. But then, as he says, that's not good science, because you're not looking at the evidence objectively and saying, okay, well, we need to find a theory that fits the evidence. You're just saying, no, we don't want to believe it, because our dogma, our existing belief system doesn't accommodate this. So, instead of looking at the evidence openly, honestly, and objectively, and factoring it into any theory, we just ignore it and we deny it. Well, that's not science. That's just dogmatic belief. There's no difference then between science and religion, traditional religion, which is very, just fixated on a dogma. So the whole point of the scientific method was that it freed people from that, because you could now think for yourself, you could observe, you could experiment, and you didn't just have to believe some dogma that was thousands of years old. You could, figure stuff out. That's the scientific method. But I think they've lost the plot, because the dogma of scientific materialism has become so entrenched that they are not willing to look at, good evidence. He's done experiments that show, things like telepathy. I'm going to give you a couple of examples of psychic powers that happen all the time, and you'll appreciate this one because it's with animals. So they did a study with animals, and they would be at the house where the animals lived, and the owner would be at work. And the owner would say, right, I'm leaving now. They'd send a message that say, I'm leaving now. And they would then observe what the animals are doing at the house. And they found that overwhelmingly, the animals would start to wait for the owner at the door or at the gate to the property when the owner decided to leave. So the moment the owner decided, they say, yeah, I've just decided to leave. I'm packing up. I'm going in 5 minutes. And then they would observe the dog's behavior, particularly dogs, cats sometimes, but, because cats are a bit more independent. They're like, they're not as attached to the owners, but dogs especially, it worked. The dog would then go and it would wait by the door, or it would wait in front of the gate if it was outside. And that was far more than a random occurrence. They observed that, many, many times. So it's like, okay, statistically, that is significant. They're saying that there's no way that's just random based on the number of times it happened. And obviously, they tested it at different times of the day, because the skeptics were, well, okay, they're just used to if the owner comes home at 5, they kind of know the time, and at 30 they start waiting. But they changed the times. They said, okay, well, go an hour earlier or an hour later and see what happens. And the animal would go when the owner made the decision to leave. So somehow that animal is psychically connected to the owner and knows when the owner has decided. Now that's psychic. That's dealing in mind. There's no physical way that animal could know, because the owner is miles away at work.
But it knows that.
No possible way, except by some mental connection that the dog could know. And there's many instances of dogs and animals knowing when their owner's in distress. They somehow know that they're in distress, and then they try and help.
They do, yes, they do. But they can detect if they've got illness.
And animals don't. They're not as intellectual as us. They don't have all this mind chatter, so they're actually more connected. They just do it naturally. They're not going, oh, that's not possible. They don't think like that.
True, yes.
They don't have a
Yeah,
dogmatic
true.
but scientific materialist paradigm that says, no, that's not possible. So I'll shut that down. They just, they connect it to their owner, and something, they experience it, they feel it. And then something tells them to go. Now that's happening in mind.
Some dogs can pick out
Hmm?
when their owner's ill, they're going to have an epileptic fit or any of these things,
Yeah.
or a diabetic coma or whatever you call it. They can detect it. Yeah, so that's pretty
And whether
amazing
that's
stuff.
psychic or they smell, because dogs have a phenomenal sense of smell, maybe
Of
it's a
course, yes,
combination.
yeah.
There's other experiments with animals that they did, particularly with parrots. There was one parrot. It was phenomenal. This parrot had like a vocabulary of a couple of hundred words. And so they did an experiment. It was very connected to its owner. They put the owner upstairs and the parrot downstairs, or vice versa. And they would get the owner to hold an object in the owner's hand, like an apple or something that the parrot was familiar with and could name. And they would then say to the parrot, what's whatever the owner's name was, what have they got? Because the parrot would kind of understand. And then like 80-90% of the time was right. And say, yeah, apple. So how could it possibly know except by some kind of telepathic connection?
Wow.
With
Yes,
And it was way more than random. It was hugely statistically significant. It's like if you understand stats, to like a 95% confidence interval. You can say, yeah, 95% probability that this is not random, that there is some connection going on, mental connection that allows the parrot to do this, because it's not just guessing. It's getting it right 80-90% of the time. So these kinds of experiments have been done, and they, overwhelmingly show that psychic powers are definitely, real as anything is in this world. They happen, these abilities are there, and so they're very possible. And the scientific establishment still doesn't really acknowledge them. So like, oh well, no, Rupert Sheldrake's seen as a bit of a maverick and a loose cannon, and they banned his TED talk because he's challenging the paradigm. He's saying you guys have got yourselves locked into a dogmatic paradigm that is not helpful. It's not actually good science. And it keeps everyone locked into that paradigm. It is the new world religion. That's his argument. The scientific materialist paradigm that we've all been sort of brought up in, and modern society largely runs on, is the new world religion. So if someone doesn't have a religion, so no, I'm not religious, but they believe in that, they have a religion. It's a belief system that they have, quite a strong one, in the scientific materialist paradigm. And it has, various constructs and consequences, and it's got all the systems. If you look at integral model, you see the systems that operate in this world are a function of that mindset. So you believe in the external world is real. That's the only reality. That all this internal stuff is a bit woo-woo. It doesn't really exist. That manifests as various systems in this world, medical system, government systems that try and make the world very real, and they go according to a certain thought system that is behind them. They don't just exist because for no reason. They exist because there is thought and emotion behind them that drives them, that creates the apparent reality in the external world as a projection of the internal states of mind, collective and individual, then get projected out. And then you think, then this is how the ego works. You think that that's all real. Okay, so you're seeing these systems, and the systems then give evidence for the thought system that underlies them. And the ego says, well, then that thought system must be real, because look, there are its results, and they seem to be very real, and they seem to hold. And if you believe that, then they do for you. That becomes your reality. but it's not a very nice reality. It's not a very kind, loving reality. So, you know, this course is teaching us to question it and say, well, maybe that's just a production of your mind. You've believed in an illusion and you've projected it out, and you create, you know, all these things that are illusory to confirm your false belief system. And now you believe that's all true, but maybe it's all false. That's what the course is asking us to question. And as you question these things and you drop some of these illusions, you naturally go up. If you look at these levels, you go up the levels from really very physically oriented into more mental orientation and mind. So that's the psyche. And then you would start going into psychic powers at the higher levels. You might start to have psychic experiences and psychic powers like telepathy, telekinesis, levitation, astral travel, And then, but beyond all of this, beyond all levels of mind, lies pure formless awareness outside of the model. And that's what Yeshua is pointing us to. He's saying, yes, you might need to go, you're certainly going to need to raise yourself up and go higher in your awareness. And so psychic powers can come as a result of that expanded awareness, no doubt. But that's not the final outcome. Final outcome is to transcend all limitations. And discover who you really are. That's the point. So I think a lot of psychics who have these powers get lost because they think they've arrived. They go, oh, I've got these psychic powers. I can see into the astral realm. I can see various entities. I can communicate with, you know, incorporeal entities. That's it. That's the truth. But it's not. There's a you know, whole dimension beyond that, which is completely transcendent of anything in the illusion. That's the pure formless awareness of perfect love, or heaven, as we call it. So if you use the psychic powers to expand your awareness as part of your process of awakening, great. He's saying, you know, that's part of the awakening. But then he cautions us. And this says, but you need to be cautious because it's very easy for the ego to hijack these psychic powers. So anyway, carry on. Number 3.
Yeah. The seemingly new abilities that I may develop on my journey home can be very helpful. Given to the remembrance of perfect love and used under its direction, they are valuable teaching aids. The question of how they arise is irrelevant. The only important consideration for me is how I use them. Perceiving them as ends in themselves, no matter how I do this, will delay my progress. Nor does their value lie in proving anything, such as achievements from the past, unusual attunements, and the unseen, or special favors from perfect love. Pure formless awareness of perfect love gives no special favors, and I have no powers that are not available to everyone. Only by tricks of magic or special powers demonstrated by anyone.
Well, so thoughts on that?
As long as we're just leaving it to the remembrance of perfect love, then it'll just happen naturally. But if we think that we're having something to do with it, then it's only tricks of magic, the separate self. So trying to prove anything, such as achievements from the past, are seen as special favors from perfect love. Sorry, I'm not sure what that means. Nor does their value lie in proving anything, such as achievements from the past, unusual achievements from. Right, number 6, I'm not quite sure what that means.
Nor does their value lie in proving anything, such as achievements from the past, unusual attunement with the unseen, or special favors from perfect love.
It says perceiving them as ends in themselves, no matter how you do this, will delay our progress.
Yeah, so if you get attached to the abilities, and this happens quite a lot, especially in the East. A lot of these gurus have cities, powers. But many of them become attached to the powers. It's like, well, now I'm kind of some kind of magic performer. They do their trick, and then everyone goes, "Oh, wow, you did your whatever, you manifested vibhuti, or you levitated, or you sat on a bed of nails, or whatever,
Yeah.
and you're so special because of that." And then they start to believe that story. Oh, I'm somehow so special because of these special powers. That is an end in itself, you see. And that's not what it's
Yeah.
about. That is ego. That's what we would call spiritual ego. So they apparently have attained some awareness in order to have that power, but then the ego comes in and goes, "Oh, now I'll give you a very
We did
special
this.
identity
Mhm.
because you've got this special power." And you'll attach yourself to that, and you identify yourself as, Guru, Swami, whatever, who has all these magic powers, and you can develop a following because people are like, "Oh, wow, you're like some magician," and they get impressed by that. And then, of course, money follows, and all kinds of other stuff, money, sexual favors. The list goes on, because the ego, once it gets going, has no boundaries. And then it becomes very false that guru is no longer an authentic teacher of perfect oneness. They are just a charlatan. They're teaching ego. They're in the ego themselves, and they're leading people down the garden path for their own, usually for their own self-aggrandizement. They've got a incentive to get followers, because that's usually
Suit their
followers
ego.
will money. Well, it strokes your ego. Everyone goes, "Oh, wow, amazing guru," etc. And then they also give money. I've seen it I
Yeah, me
remember
too.
about 10 years ago, this chap, and he was totally starstruck by this Swami guy. He'd come out from India, and apparently had these special powers. And he went into it, and he was like, "No, I'm his disciple, and I'm going to dress in the robes, and all of that." And he said, "No, I trust this guy more than myself. I would let him run my life." I said, "Really? Seriously? That is extremely dangerous." I said, I would not recommend that at all. And lo and behold, I think I spoke to him a few months later, and he was highly disillusioned, because the guy wasn't actually all he was cracked up to be. I think he had an affair with one of his students. Same-sex affair with one of his students, and was like, that all came out, and was like, well, how enlightened are you if you're using your position of power to get sexual favors
Favors.
from students? Yeah, it's not really.
No,
Well, it's not.
he's
It's
not.
not
No,
really.
it's not genuine, authentic.
No, no. So.
Yeah, I've met charlatans.
And
Yeah.
don't be starstruck. It's like, stick to the truth. And Yeshua's saying, you have all the power that I have. Saying, even said it when he was alive. He said, you shall do these things that I have done, and even greater things than I have done. What was he saying? He's saying, I'm nothing special. Yes, he had these pretty amazing powers that were unusual, but he said, that's like they powers that come from my true self, from the Christ. I'm nothing special. You have access to the same powers if you attain the same state as me. Those powers came because he was in a very enlightened state, and he was connected to his source. But he used the powers. If you look at the way Yeshua used his powers, it was always for the at-one-ment. It was never to aggrandize himself. It was never like, I'm the special one. In fact, quite the opposite. He said, no, I'm going to do these things out of love for my brothers and sisters. But he'd say to people, don't tell anyone. Don't tell anyone. Just keep it quiet. And they wouldn't, of course, he couldn't stop them. They would just go out and they'd spread the word, because how would he stop them? But he'd say, don't, just keep it quiet. Don't tell anyone, because I don't need the publicity. I don't need to be known as, the great teacher and healer. But inevitably the word spread. I mean, if you're doing the kind of stuff he was doing, it was pretty sensational. People were like, you got to go check this out, because these miracles happen. They didn't have all the entertainment we currently have. So what else was there to do, really? They didn't have TVs, they didn't have radios, they didn't have books. They would have had some books, but yeah, none of that. So it was like, wow, this is like coming to town. Thousands of people would turn out. This is the entertainment. But he didn't get, he used his powers to teach the truth. That was what made him, very authentic. And the powers were just in service of spirit, to say, look, this is what love can do. Love can heal, love can teach, love can bless. And I'll be the example of that, the living example of demonstrating. So no tricks of magic, Only by tricks of magic, he says, are special powers demonstrated by anyone. Because then you have to be someone special. Specialness and magic go together. Oneness and miracles go together. So Yeshua's powers, he used them miraculously. He used them always to try and be truly helpful to people, and to show them, to demonstrate the power of spirit, to demonstrate the power of God on earth. That was what they were for. Not for any other worldly purpose. He says, there are no special favors, and no one has any powers that are not available to everyone. Not everyone seems to manifest those powers, granted. That's part of the illusion. Not everyone's at that level, but everyone has access to these powers if they attained the same state and the same level. So Yeshua's saying, okay, well, I'll show you. I'll give you this mind training course, and I'll show you how to get to that level, the same level as I was at. And then these kinds of things can happen for you and others. There's no limit in what you can do. All right, so number 4.
Nothing that is genuine can be used to deceive me. The remembrance of perfect love is incapable of deception, and it can use only my genuine abilities. What it used for magic is useless to it, but what it uses cannot be used for magic. However, there is a particular appeal in unusual abilities that can be curiously tempting. Here are strengths which the remembrance of perfect love wants and needs. Yet my separate self perceives in these same strengths an opportunity to glorify itself. Strengths turn to weakness and indeed tragedy. Yet what is not given to the remembrance of perfect love must be given to weakness, for what is withheld from love is given to fear, and I will therefore fear it.
Okay, what's he saying in that one?
So it's just saying, if it's not genuine, then we can't be deceived by it, because we're operating from the remembrance of perfect love, and it's incapable of deception. It only knows genuine abilities. So what's used for magic, like you're saying with these charlatans, is useless.
But
it's very tempting. Yeah, it's very tempting to appeal to these unusual abilities.
So yeah, and because it makes you special. Oh, I've got these, special psychic powers which seem to set me apart from others. Now
Mm.
I'm very, more special than others because I've got these powers, and the ego obviously is going to love that. So, it sees in these same strengths an opportunity to glorify itself. But strengths turned to weakness are indeed tragedy. What is not given to the remembrance of perfect love must be given to weakness. For what is withheld from love is given to fear, and I will therefore fear it. So if you misuse these powers, you sabotage, you're missing the whole point. The powers are there as a byproduct of your awakening, and they're there to help you in this journey of awakening, to help others.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can look at Yeshua. I mean, Yeshua clearly had a lot of these powers, but he used it in the service of spirit. He didn't use it to, further his own, separate self interests. It was all about the spirit and uh, teaching people, using the powers to teach people the truth of a transcendent reality he called the kingdom of heaven. And that was his overall message. That's the reason why his teaching has remained over 2,000 years, because there's truth in it. Other teachers who use the powers and they misuse them for their own special purposes, that teaching is not going to sustain for very long because it's not true. They might get some followers for a while because there's many gullible people. It's not going to stand the test of time because it's ultimately false.
Yeah. Soon catches up with them, yeah.
Yeah. And they often get exposed and revealed.
Mm. Yeah.
So there's many, fraudsters. There was very high profile yogi called Bikram, and he was like being the guru and whatever, but actually his energy wasn't right. It was all about the money. And again, there was sexual favors from his students and da 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 da. And ended up, it all came out and he got prosecuted, and his name is not everyone's changed. They don't call it Bikram Yoga anymore because his name is tainted, because he wasn't pure in his teaching. He allowed the ego to come in and hijack it and go, oh, now it becomes more about the money, because he was making a lot of money and the lifestyle and the women and all this ego stuff. And he allowed that to come in and overwhelm the maybe initially the pure spirit of yoga. Yoga is about union. Yoga is about attaining oneness with the divine. That's what it's for. But I think it became too form-based. It became too much about the body, the physical body, and then he's the guy behind the whole teaching, and people start looking up to him, and then the ego gets going, and then the temptation is to misuse your power. Because I don't think he had psychic powers, but he had like a, sort of, he's the guru, he's the special one. He's got the, he started he just developed 26 yoga postures, and he put it into a sequence, and he went, okay, I'll take it to the West. And he got a few celebrities involved, and and so it grew. But actually it was nothing really that special. It's just yoga, just another form of yoga. So if he'd stayed humble and gone, it's not really about me, and it's not about the name, it's not about the money. It's actually about helping people to awaken through this teaching, then none of that would have happened. So yeah, he's just warning us and saying, look, just be careful, beware,
Well,
don't
there was a
get
lot of them
sidetracked.
in the 60s and the 70s, wasn't there? Quite a lot of these, gurus or the cults or whatever. And the gullible people fell for it. There's a lot of it
Yeah,
then.
and they'd go to America because there's lots of money there, and they'd get followings, and they'd get a lot of money because people were like seeking
Favors
for
in
some
varying
kind of
fields, yes.
spiritual, and the 60s was all about liberation, and people were taking drugs and like expanding their mind, and so then he's good. Oh, this is a fertile ground. I can get a good following here, and get people to, if you get people to follow you and they've got money, they'll, donate. I mean, Osho, I think he had something like 20 Rolls Royces, something ridiculous.
Mm.
It's like, that's just insane.
Yeah.
Why do you need 20 of the
Yeah.
same? Oh, no, he said, well, it's just because
Just,
I enjoy it. Well,
just
surely just
glorifying,
enjoy
yes.
one, but you need 20. It's a bit over the top. So then you start wondering, well, how enlightened was he really, or was the ego coming in? I remember I was reading, some book by someone had given me, well, from His Divine Grace, Swami, someone or other. And there was an interview with them, and the interview was saying, well, why do you then travel in a fancy car?
Mm.
And he's like, no, because I'm a representative of God, and God doesn't want his representatives to travel in something that's not worthy of them. I'm like,
Mm.
no,
Praise God.
you're
Yes.
missing the
There's a
point.
red flag. Yeah, red
God,
flag.
exactly. God is not form. God is not concerned with form at all. If you think that God cares about what vehicle you drive in, then you're sadly mistaken. You have no idea what God is.
That's the
And
red
then
flag.
there's a
Yeah.
manipulation, you see. Then it's like, oh no, actually my ego wants it. I quite enjoy the fancy car and the whatever the luxuries are, but I don't want to say that. So I say, it's God's will. Actually, it's got nothing to do with God's will at all, because God, pure formless awareness, has no idea about cars and vehicles and any of these illusions. It's not concerned about any of that at all. So, whether you walk or you drive in some jalopy, or it really doesn't matter at all. It's not concerned with that kind of thing at all.
No.
So then it's like, okay, so I'm like, okay, I'm not going to read any further. Read a couple of
Just
chapters. I was
study, yeah.
already like,
That's all,
not so
yeah.
sure about this. And then it's like, no, actually, this
Not
guy's not
worth it.
authentic. So why am I gonna read more? Because clearly he's just shown there that the ego still has a very strong hold in his mindset. And his picture was kind of very proud, like he had this hooked nose and was kind of, I was like, I didn't really see a lot of love
Right.
in there. It was more like pride. And so you got to
Yeah.
be discerning, who do you want to follow? Who do you want to listen to?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What do you want to
Yeah.
read? And then I just come back to the course, because it's like, well, this is the purest teaching I've found. And it's coming from someone who has no ego anymore, and he's not human. I think that's the key thing. There's no ego he's still trying to overcome. He's overcome that, and he's just trying to help us to do the same
Yes. Yeah.
from that perspective of having transcended the ego entirely. So he's got no personal investment in anything in this world. He couldn't care about this world. It's not important at all to him. Whereas, teachers in this world, most teachers in this world, and usually occasionally you get one who's completely free of worldly fetters, but most teachers have these, still worldly attachments, and they have to get over that. That's part of their journey. Yeah, and I include myself in that. I'm not saying like I'm perfectly enlightened, but at least, don't be honest about it. Know where you are.
Yeah.
That yes, there's stuff you got to work through and you've got to overcome. And it's a work in progress. You keep working at it. And so then you're always the student. I think that's the key thing. Student first, teacher second. Still learning, you still until the day you lay your body aside. You learn it. You're on this journey of, well, I can let go of more of these attachments and more of these fetters, and awaken further to the truth of who I am. And I'm open to those opportunities and the experiences that they bring me. And that's an ongoing journey. So and then I never get arrogant and go, wow, like I've just arrived and that's it. I'm just living the course and I've kind of got it all sussed. No, because I'm still learning. And you still got you can still certainly improve. And well,
Of
there's
course.
not the end. It's like, can I get better at letting go? Yeah, of course I can.
Yeah.
Just do it more quickly. Don't
Don't
get
go down the
sucked
rabbit
in.
hole. Yeah.
Don't go down the rabbit hole at all. No. Do I still go down rabbit holes? Yeah, sometimes I do. Then you got to catch yourself and say, no, don't, so don't go there. So you can get better at just going, no, I'm not even going to go down the rabbit hole. because I know from the start it's a rabbit hole. I'm not even tempted anymore because I know exactly what it is and what the ego does and how it works. So no, I've got to the awareness where I can just stay in a clean, clear, pure, formless awareness and don't have to go down rabbit holes. Just stay in that nice, peaceful state. Yeah. So I think the key thing here is humility. Like whatever talents and abilities you have, be humble, because they're just there to help you and others to awaken.
Yeah.
So there's no now my separate self gets glorified by this, because there is no separate self anymore. I think the unique thing with Yeshua was he had these pretty astonishing abilities, but there was no separate self anymore to want to use them. So they were then used entirely for the Holy Spirit's purpose, which is just to awaken people. And the rest is history. The reason why he made history and he was so powerful was because he was in this Holy Spirit's Christ energy, and he had these abilities that were used for that purpose to help himself and others to awaken. That was the only use he put them to. It would have been very tempting if he'd been in any kind of ego to misuse that power. And he was tempted. The disciples and them said, well, why don't you overthrow Rome? You've got the power. Like, let's start a rebellion and let's overthrow the oppressors and create a kingdom, the kingdom of the Jews, and you'll be the king. And he was like, no, 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 no. That's not the plan. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here to teach about a kingdom that is beyond this world. I'm not interested in worldly kingdoms at all. So he said, when people said, should we pay tax to the Romans? He asked them to give him a coin. He said, whose head is on that? It was Caesar's. He said, well, give unto Caesar what is Caesar's and give unto God what is God's. So, all of that money, tax, all that, that belongs in the domain of illusion. That's Caesar's, but God wants your allegiance, wants your complete awareness that transcends all these illusions. All right, so number 5. Can you read that?
Yeah. Even those who no longer value the material things of the world may still be deceived by psychic powers. As I have withdrawn investment from the world's material gifts, my separate self has been seriously threatened. It may still be strong enough to rally under this new temptation to win back strength by deception. Many have not seen through their false selves' defenses here, although they are not particularly subtle. Yet if I still wish to be deceived, I will have made deception easy for it. Now the power is no longer a genuine ability and cannot use it reliably. It is almost inevitable that, unless I change my mind about its purpose, I will reinforce my powers, uncertainties, with increasing deception.
Well, so what's it saying there?
Well, even though we no longer value the material things, we can still get sucked into this and deceived by these psychic powers.
And it happens quite often. I see it. And then you get what's called a spiritual ego. The person gets attached to these powers. They don't necessarily have to be psychic. They could be healing powers. I've seen it with healers. Oh, well, I do, Reiki or some other healing modality, and I've now got these special powers that I can administer on others. And I identify with those powers. I think I'm something superior and special because of them. Now that you're losing the plot, because you're nothing special or superior. You're the same as everyone else.
Yeah.
Don't be confused by the apparently, special powers that you have. That's part of the ego's deception. Now the power is no longer a genuine ability and I cannot use it reliably. It's almost inevitable unless I change my mind about its purpose. I'll reinforce my power's uncertainties with increasing deception. So once you start misusing that power, it's no longer used for your awakening. It's actually used to deceive. Not just yourself, but others. And that's what happens. Inevitably, deception follows misuse of these powers. So it's saying to us, just be vigilant, be wary of it. Don't fall for the trap of the ego. If these kinds of psychic power come, don't be confused.
As it says, it's seriously threatened. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but don't allow that. Understand what's going on.
Yeah.
And so, again, he's teaching us here. The beauty of this course is he's just teaching us all the ways of the ego and saying, just be wary of that. That's why he's included this as a section, so that we prepared. Okay, if these kinds of psychic powers come, don't get carried away. Don't think that you're anything special. Yeah, just dedicate them to the highest truth, and ask the Holy Spirit to use them for the highest good. And then you can't really go wrong. They can only be used for good. Okay, so last one, number 6.
Yeah. Any ability that I develop has the potential for good. There is no exception to this. And the more unusual and unexpected the power, the greater is its potential usefulness to me. Awakening has need of all abilities. For what the world wants to destroy, the remembrance of perfect love wants to restore. Psychic abilities have been used to call upon the devil, which merely means to strengthen the belief in separation. Yet here is also a great channel of hope and healing in the remembrance of perfect love's service. Those who have developed psychic powers have simply let some of the limitations they accepted in their minds be lifted. It can only be further limitation I impose on myself if I utilize my increased freedom for greater imprisonment. The remembrance of perfect love needs these gifts, and I, who offer them to it and it alone, go with my true self's gratitude in my heart and its innocent perception not far behind. So if we do have any ability, it's only potential for good, and there's no exception. So the more unusual and unexpected the power, the potential for its usefulness.
Yeah.
So the remembrance of perfect love wants to restore these abilities, whilst obviously the other just wants to enslave and imprison us.
Yeah.
It's saying the psychic abilities have been used to call upon the devil. That's obviously the belief in separation.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's, if you're working from there, then it's negative. It's not going to be good.
So misuse merely means to strengthen the belief in separation. It's good which merely means to strengthen the ego. So misuse, a psychic who wants to misuse their powers and start, delving into egoic energies of fear, anger, hatred, attack, You know, these are the dark ones. They seem to have power. They can seem to be quite powerful and malevolent and malicious because they have these, you know, these psychic powers that amplify it. But actually, it's all false.
Mm.
There's no need to fear. You just stand in the truth of perfect love. Well, there's John.
Oh, that's good. Mm-hmm.
Some time for a
Summary.
summary.
Oh,
So
yes.
we can
Yeah.
do the summary of it. Ask him to read that. Hi, John. Hi, John. How are you?
Angela, I'm good, thanks. Yeah, hi, Elaine.
Hi, John.
Oh, welcome. Yeah, we just looked at section from the manual for teachers because Elaine had a question about psychic powers. She was watching a program.
About mediums, ghosts. Yeah.
Psychic powers. So, what the course says,
Oh,
well,
okay.
this is what it says. So, yeah, we just went through this again, but
Okay.
we're at the summary. So, if you want to read the
Yeah, okay.
summary.
Yeah, it sounds an interesting question. Yeah, thanks, Elaine. There are no unnatural powers, and believing in powers that don't exist is an appeal to magic. However, I recognize that I have many abilities of which I'm currently unaware. As my awareness increases, I might develop abilities that surprise me, but none can compare to the glorious surprise of remembering who I truly am. All my learning and efforts are directed towards this ultimate realization. Should I continue?
Yeah, I'll just summarize that maybe. So what's he saying there?
So he's saying there are no unnatural powers. We all have potential to do a varied number of things that might very well surprise us. But the point is that we are ultimately looking to remember who we truly are.
Yeah, all my learning and efforts should be directed towards that. Okay, the next one, I accepted certain psychic powers.
Yeah, I accept that certain psychic powers align with this course. Interesting. Communication for me isn't limited to the world's recognized channels. These limitations, often based on fear, hinder my direct experience of perfect love. Transcending these limits makes me more natural, not more special or magical.
Yeah, what's he saying there?
So he's saying these so-called psychic powers might, in some cases, we might be familiar with them with regard to the course. For example, Helen Schuckman's receipt of the text to start with. And these are not usual channels. And resistance to these channels is usually based on fear, and that can get in the way.
When I transcend these limits, I'm merely becoming more natural, more actually who I am, which is completely fearless and one with everyone and everything, not more special or magical. Okay, next one, new abilities I may acquire.
Actually, I was reading this afternoon about letting go of fear, and fear being and not letting go of fear of such, but letting go of the precepts, the ideas we've got that cause the fear. But anyway,
Mm. Mm.
the new
Yeah.
ability. Yeah, sorry, John.
It's the false self that causes the fear. Identification with a separate self, which he warns us about here. Saying, don't use the abilities to
Okay. The new
foster that
ability.
self.
The new abilities I may acquire on my journey can be helpful if directed by the remembrance of perfect love. They should not be ends in themselves or used to prove anything, as this would delay my progress. Pure formless awareness of perfect love gives no special favors, and all powers are available to everyone.
Okay, so what's he saying there?
So it's saying these skills, psychic skills, may well be helpful if they are directed by spirit, but
Oh.
they are not ends in themselves, and nobody's special who has them,
Yeah.
because we all are open to all sorts of powers.
So what often happens with so-called spiritual people or gurus is they have a power or powers, and then they misuse it. They become attached to the power, and it starts to become about their special self. And they're so special because they've got these special powers, and then they get followers who kind of worship them, put them on a pedestal, and will pay them money and do other things for them. And this is all just the ego hijacking that power and making that power into an end in itself. So people go, well, I want to learn to levitate. I want to learn to manifest things. I want to learn to do Tumo breathing and be able to melt, ice just with my body heat and stay out all night in freezing cold. And, the power itself becomes the desirable. It's an end in itself. And that's to miss the point. That's not what it's for.
Yeah.
This is what he's pointing out here. So genuine abilities, we'll carry on, will not used for deception.
Genuine abilities are not used for deception. And what is used for magic is useless to the remembrance of perfect love. Unusual abilities can be tempting, but strengths turned into weakness are a tragedy. Anything not given to the remembrance of perfect love is given to weakness and fear instead. So it's saying that such abilities are of no use to spirit. And although we might be tempted to get absorbed with them, they turn into obsession and actually become a weakness.
Well, they can be used for spirit. I mean, saying anything not given to remembrance of perfect love is given to weakness and fear.
Yes, yeah.
Saying, well, give these abilities. Say, not my will, but thy will. Whatever talents and skills and abilities I have, you use them in the service of this great plan of the One-ment. I think Yeshua's great example to us was, he had extraordinary powers, no doubt. He was psychic, he had healing powers, but he used it in the service of the Holy Spirit, remembrance of perfect love, to help people awaken to a transcendent self and reality. And that was his whole message. And the healings and the various other miracles he did were just in the service of demonstrating the power of this transcendent reality that he was teaching about. And that's why his example is so powerful and it's lasted for 2,000 years, because he didn't devolve it into ego and just use it for egoic purposes. He stayed true to the truth always, and the abilities were just used to help to communicate his message. All right, even as I move away. Last one.
Even as I move away from valuing material things, psychic powers may still have the power to deceive me. Unless I change their purpose in my mind, they can become unreliable and lead to more deception. Every ability I develop has the potential for good, especially if it is unusual. So-called psychic abilities, when used in the service of the remembrance of perfect love, can be channels of hope and healing. Anyone who has developed these powers has simply let go of some limiting beliefs in their mind. However, using them for further self-imprisonment is a mistake. The remembrance of perfect love needs these gifts, and when I offer them only to it, I will feel deeply grateful to receive everything truly.
Okay, saying this one.
So he's saying that, well, he's saying that psychic powers have the ability to deceive us and take us down a rabbit hole, or they can be used for the benefit of everyone and the benefit of spirit and our brothers, if we are using them for that purpose. So appreciate, if we have them, appreciate them and use them in the name of spirit.
Yeah, so not my will, but thy will be done. It's not about me. It's not about a separate self. It's about awakening myself and others to the truth. And if these abilities are used in service of that, then they're very valuable. And as Yeshua, being our teacher, demonstrated, without the miracles that he did, his teaching would not have been nearly as popular. People showed up and they came to see him because of the miracles, and then he could communicate the message to them. So it was used in the service of communicating the message of the kingdom of heaven, and helping people to free their minds from the ego, not to self-aggrandize himself and make himself into something special. And he didn't want to be worshipped. Could argue that he left, decided to go to Jerusalem and go through the crucifixion, because he realized that if he stayed longer, it wouldn't actually be helpful, because people got too attached to him and his miracles, and they weren't able to access their own true self, Christ and the Holy Spirit, because of their attachment to him. So he had to leave. It's one of the reasons why he did. Okay, so then just the key message to wrap it all up in one paragraph.
I recognize that my natural abilities, including so-called psychic powers, can aid my spiritual journey if directed by the remembrance of perfect love. These abilities should not be ends in themselves, but tools to facilitate my awakening. When I use psychic powers wisely, they contribute to my realization of who I truly am and my ability to teach this truth to others.
Okay, now what's he saying there?
He's saying that he's encouraging us to recognize that if we have natural abilities that might be psychic, then we can make good use of them if we dedicate them to spirit. That was.
Okay, so any other thoughts on that, Elaine?
Yeah, no, that's answered my question.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Very comprehensive. So thank
It's,
you.
yeah, it's really clear.
Good.
Saying it.
Yeah,
These
that's very
abilities
clear.
exist, that
So it is,
make sure
yeah.
you use them wisely, in the service of the true self and the Holy Spirit, rather than just as ends in themselves, which then foster the separate self.
Yeah, yeah. So you can tell who are the genuine, authentic ones and the charlatans, of course. So this program I'm watching, the lady does look very authentic. She's not in, doesn't look as though she's interested in money or favors. So yeah,
Yeah.
just still, yeah. So I still wonder. I always questioned about that, but some people get great comfort from them. You know, whether they can speak to loved ones on the other side or so forth. So you know.
Well, is it being done with love? I think that's always the question. I mean, what's the person's motive?
That's the big one, yes. So you come across many charlatans, but you know there are some genuine ones there. So yeah.
Yeah, and the only difference is that the charlatans have a separate self-interest. They're using their powers to foster,
that's
to pursue an ongoing goal. I want money, or I want special attention from people. I want status, money, status, power, sexual favors, etc. These are the kinds of things that the ego wants. The true someone who's not a charlatan would use those powers for good, and only for good. So
cleared it all up,
responsible.
because I've met more charlatans than we meet more of the charlatans, and so that makes you skeptical. So it's you've answered my question there. So it's when it's coming from the love, then it's authentic and genuine. So that answers
What is the person's motivation?
Yes.
And the charlatan could become genuine if they just woke up and realized that.
So I think that's why I was
another way.
Skeptical. But so that's clarified it. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Okay, so that's that section done. John, any questions on that?
No, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it is actually quite fascinating. These only for teachers sections are generally quite interesting, because they questions that are not directly addressed elsewhere in the course, but that people may well have, as you did have. So what about psychic powers? That's a common question. So then he addresses it quite comprehensively within the framework of this thought system. So you have the course's clear teaching on it. And he does that a lot. So when people start saying other things, it's like, well, just refer to the course, because he's covered it. There's teachings on pretty much everything. Okay, so
it's funny how we've just covered this, but yet I still forgot. So it's true, you do need reminding and reminding. It's amazing.
Yeah, I think you were in that session we did about 6 weeks ago.
Yes, no, I now can remember it, but it quickly it's amazing how you forget. So so you do need to keep going back. Yeah.
That's how it goes. That's why you can go back to this course and read and reread it, because
absolutely, because you get something new each time. There's no doubt. I've heard that many times, and I can see what they mean. Yeah.
So the second time you're reading this, it's hopefully more powerful than the first. And if you read it again, and also your experience changes. So you don't know in a year's time, maybe some psychic powers are manifesting for you, and then you have a different perspective on it because your personal experience has changed. So
it's just keeping open. That's the secret, isn't it? Just keeping open. No outcomes. No. Yeah.
The only outcome is love. So if you really dedicate everything to love, then you can't go wrong. What is that? What is that love? This is why we do the mind training. What is that love? It's not always that clear. What is the loving to do in this state? And if you're not sure, then just ask. Say, well, show me. What would love do? in the situation, and you ask
Yeah.
for the guidance, and you wait until it shows up. Okay, so yeah, nice section. Done a bit of the text in this section. So let's have a look at our teaching for today, the quote, and maybe we've got time for the insert on what am I, and then today's lesson. Okay, I believe there's going to be a power cut shortly, so just let me I'm going to go reroute to another room, so just take a minute and
Yeah.
carry on. Okay. We back. So it was a bit longer than 2 minutes. Just had to get some stuff sorted in preparation for our upcoming power cut in a few minutes. Let's go into our teaching for today. Okay, so Lane John, are you there?
Yep. Yeah.
You're there. Okay. So yeah, let's just have a look at today's quote. So if you can read that headline quote to kick it off.
The mystery of human existence lies not in just staying alive, but in finding something to live for. Fyodor Dostoevsky.
Yeah, great Russian author Dostoevsky speaks about the most fundamental need of every human being, which is to find a worthy purpose to live for. What Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl called man's will to meaning, which was the basis for logotherapy, the third Viennese school of psychotherapy founded, that postulates that the search for meaning is the primary motivational force for human beings. So you know a bit about psychology. The first one was Freud. He was talking all about the pain and pleasure principle, that human beings desire pleasure and avoid pain. The second one was a guy called Alfred Adler, who talked about power. Human beings are primarily motivated by the desire for power. And then Viktor Frankl came along and said, no, it's actually all about meaning. I think Frankl was, correct in that. His teaching transcended the other two schools. It's interesting because Clara at the moment is doing a counseling course, and she's dealing with a lot of Freudian stuff, and she's going, it's a bit, kind of jarring, because she knows that there's a higher teaching, the id and the ego and the super ego and all that stuff that Freud developed. But Freud was an atheist, so he didn't fully acknowledge the power of the divine, that there's some transcendent reality, which means that his teaching was limited. Whereas someone like Jung and Frankl seemed to, they went to a deeper level of spiritual understanding in their teachings. So to try and satisfy the strong force that drives every person to find fulfillment through finding meaning in their life, the ego has invented many purposes and goals, but none of them is truly worthy of our minds, because none of them will last. The word value can be applied only to what is eternal, and what is temporary only has value to the extent that it helps us awaken from the dream of time to an awareness of eternity, as Yeshua explains in this quote from section 4.1a of the Manual for Teachers about the development of trust. So if you can read that. Elaine, are you back? Or John? Elaine just said she's taking the dogs out for a walk. Okay, so John, if you can read that from the Manual for Teachers again, section on the development of trust, which is very powerful.
It takes great learning to understand that all things, events, encounters, and circumstances are helpful. It is only to the extent to which they are helpful that any degree of reality should be accorded them in this world of illusion. The word value can apply to nothing else.
Yeah, so he's saying here that this is the only definition of value that's of any meaning. So there's a session there that there's a a live session if you want to go into that recorded session where we discuss this in a lot of detail, the development of trust. And the first 3 stages of it are all about relinquishing, undoing of the ego, and realizing that, the only reality any of these events and encounters and circumstances have is that they help us awaken. It's only to the extent to which they are helpful in this process of at-one-ment or awakening that any degree of reality should be accorded them. The word value can apply to nothing else. They're only valuable to the extent to which they help you awaken. And that's the correct meaning to give everything in this world. Then you don't falsely value anything. If you give it another meaning, then it's very easy for the ego to come in and misuse that. That isn't what the ego specializes in, is giving false meaning to things. So now you value something, it's temporary, but you give it a meaning and a value in your mind that seem, you try and make it permanent, but it's temporary. So of course there's going to be a conflict at some stage between what you want it to be and what it actually is. And when that happens, then the illusions that you valued seem to fade away, and then you struggle to let them go. And that's why I'm saying everything's actually helpful, because if it's an illusion and you valued it and now it's gone and you're struggling to let it go and you're suffering, that's helpful because it's helping you to let go of that illusion. That's the only real value of it. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a bonus session that you can watch. You must really, what we discussed in this was managing our mental and emotional state should be our number one priority and only real purpose in life. Because that management of our mental and emotional state involves forgiveness or letting go continuously to reconnect to our source and let go of the ego. So to do this effectively, manage it, your mental and emotional state, you must reinterpret everything. It seems to happen in the dream world, especially the seemingly negative things, as helpful to your purpose of letting go of your ego and awakening to your eternal self. So the more challenging it is, the more things seem to be a disaster, actually the more helpful it is, because it's triggering you, it's bringing up your ego, so you have the chance to look at it and let it go. And this is the Holy Spirit's reinterpretation of the world, so that everything you experience in this world serves your true purpose of awakening from the dream. And a big part of living this purpose is to be truly helpful yourself, which is beautifully phrased in this passage from section 5a of chapter 2 of the text, entitled Special Principles of Miracle Workers. So this is actually included in every email that I send out. You can always see it. It's in your daily practice, but just a reminder of it. So Elaine, if you can read that. This is the reinterpretation, the translation of the original into alternative language.
I am here only to be truly helpful. I am here to represent the pure formless awareness of perfect love within me. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do, because this awareness will direct me. I am content to be wherever it wishes, knowing it goes there with me. I will be healed as I let it teach me to heal.
Yeah, so it's a very powerful prayer to say, and at the beginning of a day, to say, let me be truly helpful today. It really activates the spirit. It says, hey, this is my only intention here, to be truly helpful to myself and others. And if you live every day like that, then you can't fail to heal yourself. I will be healed as I let it teach me to heal. And it's going to direct me to be truly helpful to others, which is where the Course leaves us. We've looked at the last lesson of it, which is really just saying be truly helpful. You know, if you need a word will come. If you need a thought, if you need an action to be truly helpful, all of this will come, be given to you. But set the intention first to be truly helpful. So it's a great prayer to use as part of your morning spiritual practice. It's included down here every day, just so you know. There's I know a lot of people don't get down here in the email, but there's a whole schedule, daily practice, and there's the prayer. So you can read every day. It only needs to take a minute or two, just reflect on it. And that helps you to set yourself into this helpful mindset. Okay, so I also mentioned the importance having a spiritual path and regular spiritual practice in life rather than limiting yourself to forever being a spiritual seeker, just seeking knowledge, but never really going deeper into the truth of oneness and love, which are really the only things we're here to learn. So the spiritual path keeps you on track. And I talked about the win-loss program of the ego, the idea of sacrifice and limitation, that is central to its thought system. I used the analogy of the Rugby World Cup, with the example of the Rugby World Cup happening at that time, to illustrate this. Only one team and nation ends up being happy with the outcome. Everyone else is disappointed, feels like they're losers at the end of the tournament, because it's a win-lose system. And finally, we looked at creation and communication. There's a question about abstract thinking, which is quite interesting. Said, how does abstract thinking fit into it? The guy responded that, you know, this course is actually a master course in abstract thinking, but he's teaching us to think in abstract terms, but in applying it to practical matters and concerns, which is quite amazing, really. So even though you're thinking, you know, pure formless awareness, and completely abstract, that it allows us to apply it, this course, into so-called, you know, real-world situations and get guidance. That's what's actually amazing about it. So there's abstract thinking, but it's also very practical because it helps us solve problems on this level of form that we're experiencing. And Bali asked how ego uses communication for its purpose of separation. So, you know, how does it do that? Well, I answered the question in there, so you can listen to the whole thing if you want. It'll use communication to separate rather than to foster unity. So its communication is typically attacking, controlling, manipulative, abusive, condemnatory in nature, all of which is just designed to perpetuate separation. And we close the session with a little Thanksgiving and reading lesson 25. So yeah, it was a good session, if I recall. 5 years ago, almost. Wow. Oh, so going way back, but there it is if you want to listen to it. And so that leads us into today's session, which is where we are. And next part of that is the mind training lesson. So let's have a look then at today's lesson, 353, I believe we're on to. So going to lesson 353 and the insert 14. What am I? John, I don't think you've done this one, so if you want to kick it off, read the first paragraph in the original and the alternative, please.
What am I? I am God's Son, complete and healed and whole, shining in the reflection of his love. I am perfect love's extension, complete and healed and whole, shining in the reflection of its love. In me is his creation, sanctified and guaranteed eternal life. Its extension is honored and guaranteed eternal life in me. In me is love perfected, fear impossible and joy established without opposite. In me, love is perfected, fear is impossible, and joy is established without opposite. I am the holy home of God himself. I am the I am the innocent home of perfect love itself. I am the heaven where his love resides. I am the state of pure formless awareness in which its love resides. I am his holy sinlessness itself, for in my purity abides his own. I am its pure innocence itself, for in my purity lives its own.
And then from the top, the alternative.
I am perfect love's extension, complete and healed and whole, shining in the reflection of its love. Its extension is honored and guaranteed eternal life in me. In me, love is perfected, fear is impossible, and joy is established without opposite. I am the innocent home of perfect love itself. I am the state of pure formless awareness in which its love resides. I am its pure innocence itself, for in my purity lives its own. So this is a strong affirmation of our essence, which is purity and perfection itself, and a reinforcement of that.
Yeah, it's lovely. And in this one, it's the last insert. You notice that it's purely positive. He's not actually talking about the ego at all. There's no, light, dark. Okay, here's the ego and here's the correction. He's just actually giving us a vision of our true self in its pure state, describing it in words that are quite beautiful and powerful, pointing us really into the state that the words describe. Now, that's the power of the words. They actually take you in to the state of mind that they're describing. Okay, so number 2, Elaine, if you can read that in the original alternative, please.
No, I've done it in the original a couple of times. Shall I not just do the alternative? Or you still want me to continue because John hasn't heard it?
Yeah, I think let's just do it in both.
Right.
If you don't mind.
Our use for words is almost over now. Our use for words is almost over now. Yet in the final days of this 1 year we gave to God together, you and I, we found a single purpose that we shared. Yet in the final days of this 1 year I gave to pure formless awareness a perfect love. Together with Yeshua, we found a single purpose that we shared. And thus you joined with me. So what I am are you as well. And so I joined with him, for what I am, he is as well. The truth of what we are is not for words to speak of, nor describe. The truth of what we are is not for words to speak of or describe. Yet we can realize our function here, and words can speak of this and teach it too, if we exemplify the words in us. Yet we can realize our function here, and if we live by the words in us, words can speak of this and teach it too. From the top, our use for words is almost over now, yet in the final days of this 1 year, I gave to pure formless awareness a perfect love. Together with Yeshua, I found a single purpose that we shared. And so I joined with him, for what I am, he is as well. The truth of what we are is not for words to speak or describe. Yet we can realize our function here, and if we live by words in us, words can speak of this and teach it too. So it's just coming to the stage now where words are over, and we're at the final end of the year that we gave to God, our pure formless of perfect love, together with Yeshua. And we found this shared purpose, the truth So words are just not necessary now to speak or describe, but we will realize that if we live by the words in us, words can speak of this and teach it too.
So moving beyond words into pure experience, that's where he's taking us. Words can speak of it and teach it, but in the end, it comes down to the experience of it. That's what the mystic experiences. They're not just in the words and in the intellect, not just about beliefs, it's about an actual experience. So when you start going into that experience, then words become unnecessary. So after a year of mind training, at nearly the end of this 1-year course, he's saying you're ready for this. You're ready for the experience of this pure formless awareness of perfect love. Okay, number 3. John, if you can read that. Original and alternative.
We are the bringers of salvation. I am the bringer of freedom. We accept our part as saviors of the world, which through our joint forgiveness is redeemed. I accept my part in the awakening of the world, which is freed through our joint letting go. And this, our gift, is therefore given us. And being my gift, this is therefore given to me. We look on everyone as brother and perceive all things as kindly and as good. I perceive everyone as a companion and perceive every event and circumstance as beneficial and good. We do not seek a function that is past the gate of heaven. I do not seek a function that is past the beginning of the state of pure formless awareness. Knowledge will return when we have done our part. Knowledge will return when I have done my part. We are concerned only with giving welcome to the truth. I am concerned only with giving welcome to the truth. So from the top, I am the bringer of freedom. I accept my part in the awakening of the world, which is freed through our letting go. And being my gift, this is therefore given to me. I perceive everyone as a companion and perceive every event and circumstance as beneficial and good. I do not seek a function that is past the beginning of the state of pure formless awareness. Knowledge will return when I have done my part. I am concerned only with giving welcome to the truth.
Yeah, so thoughts on that?
So he's saying here that we are all ambassadors of truth, and that our role is to play our part and bear witness to spirit, and we're not concerned about the outcome, but we will move towards the truth of who we really are.
Knowledge will return when I've done my part. So if we have a look at this diagram again, let's just take it down. This is our Holy Trinity diagram, which we looked at before. It's not illustrated quite well here, what he's saying in words. And when I've truly done my part, so I've let go of all my misperceptions, corrected my mind, I'll identify only with the true self. It's the one self that rises above the battleground, perceives everything in the illusion correctly. And knowledge will come when I've done that. So he's very much defining the scope of this course and saying the scope is here. This is where the work happens. This is where the mind training happens. It's to change your perception, correct your perception and identify more and more with the true self or the Christ that comes from oneness. Pure formless awareness of perfect love underlies the true self, because the true self is one self. So pure formless awareness is perfect oneness. That's the principle that underlies it. Saying this will happen, knowledge will come when you've done your part and you've done your letting go. It's inevitable that, and he says in the Course that God will take the final step. So once you've done all of your forgiveness work or letting go work, this just happens. Will happen naturally. You will merge back in. It means by God will take the final step, is your mind is so much in this awareness that it just, any sense of separation dissolves and it just merges into this beautiful, blissful state of pure formless awareness of perfect love, in which it realizes that it no longer needs a body or any kind of form to identify with. It's actually completely free. Okay. Any other thoughts on number 3?
No, it makes sense.
You can see how the Holy Trinity then makes a huge amount of sense if you understand it correctly. It's just levels of awareness, and the Holy Trinity takes you up from this level of awareness, the egoic, into the true self as the necessary intermediary step to the ultimate level, which he calls knowledge. So you're not just going to get to knowledge, you go via forgiveness or letting go and your true self to get there. And so that's quite practical and doable, because you can change your perception and you can restore your mind to this true self. If you're asked just to go into pure formless awareness of perfect love, that becomes seemingly impossible from the perspective of the ego when you caught up in all the things and people and places and events and experiences of time and space. It's a huge jump. You're saying, well, actually, it's not so huge, because this is what you're going to do. You're just going to systematically and progressively let go and identify more and more with your true self, and then inevitably knowledge will come when you're ready. So that's how the Holy Trinity, so it's a system, operating system for your life, and it's showing you this process of awakening quite clearly. Okay, so happy to go to number 4.
Yeah. Ours are the eyes through which Christ's vision sees a world redeemed from every thought of sin. Mine are the eyes through which my true self's vision sees a world freed from every thought of sin. Ours are the ears that hear the voice for God proclaim the world as sinless. Mine are the ears that hear the voice for perfect love proclaim the world as innocent. Ours the minds that join together as we bless the world. Ours are the minds that join together as we bless the world. And from the oneness that we have attained, we call to all our brothers, asking them to share our peace and consummate our joy. And from the oneness that we have attained, we call to all our companions, asking them to share our peace and confirm our joy. So
From the top.
Oh yeah. Mine are the eyes through which my true self's vision sees a world free from every thought of sin. Mine are the ears that hear the voice for perfect love proclaim the world as innocent. Ours are the minds that join together as we bless the world. And from the oneness that we have attained, we call to all our companions, asking them to share our peace and confirm our joy. So it just starts with our true self's vision and to free us from these thoughts of sin. So we have our ears and our eyes to see the perfect love and hear, and to proclaim this to the whole world, that we're innocent. So then our minds join together and bless the world. And then it continues to filter out to our companions and ask them to share in this peace and joy. From this oneness that we have attained, we then filter it out to our companions, and then they in turn,
the word is extended out.
yeah, extend, yeah, this peace and joy, yeah.
Yeah, so it starts with our vision, true self's vision, which is what he's talking about in this diagram. True self has Christ's vision or true perceptions, which sees everything differently. The world is not seen through the lens of separation anymore. It's seen through the eyes of unity. Yeah. So Deborah was talking about an experience she had a couple of days ago. She was on a walk. She said it was just suddenly like everything was one. She felt, that oneness with not just the people on the walk, the dogs, but everything, the trees, the grass. And she said, I sort of saw hearts everywhere. I was walking and there were just hearts in the stones and hearts. And then she said, I did the walk again, same route, and I didn't see any hearts. A day or two later, it's like, well, because that's how it works. Your perception changes when you're in this awakened state.
That was like Sally with the feathers. Do you remember Sally talking about she just was walking and there was just lots of white feathers? Yeah.
Mm. So you see, when you're in this altered state, Christ's vision, then you really do perceive the world very differently. And you see things that you don't normally see. That's what he's pointing to here. So this oneness calls to everyone. We call to all our companions, asking them to share our peace and confirm our joy. So that's what the at-one-ment does. It just shares. So every master who's ever attained these kinds of states just wants to share it. Well, that's so amazing. Why wouldn't I want to share that with everyone? Because it's just an amazing experience, amazing state to be in. So there's no other intention than to share it with people, because you've personally experienced how powerful it is. It's like, wow, that is absolutely transcendent of this world. There's nothing quite like it. And of course you want to share it with people and say, there's something you're missing your whole life. And I'd like you to experience it, because it transcends every other experience in this world. It's it makes all the petty desires and even pleasures of this world pretty trivial by comparison with that enlightened state. Okay, so last one, paragraph 5. John, if you can read that kindly.
We are the holy messengers of God who speak for him, and carrying his word to everyone whom he has sent to us, we learn that it is written on our hearts. We are the innocent messengers of perfect love who speak for it, and carrying its message to everyone whom it has sent to us, we learn that it is written on our hearts. And thus our minds are changed about the aim for which we came and which we seek to serve. And so our minds are changed about the aim for which we came and choose to serve. We bring glad tidings to the Son of God who thought he'd suffered. I bring a happy message to the extension of perfect love, which thought it suffered. Now is he redeemed. Now we are free. And as he sees the gate of heaven stand open before him, he will enter in and disappear into the heart of God. And as I become more and more aware of the state of pure formless awareness, I will enter fully into it, and my separated self-concept will disappear in this pure formless awareness of perfect. Round the top.
Yep.
We are the innocent messengers of perfect love who speak for it. And carrying its message to everyone whom it has sent to us, we learn that it is written on our heart. And so our minds are changed about the aim for which we came and choose to serve. I bring a happy message to the extension of perfect love, which thought it suffered. Now we are free. And as I become more and more aware of the state of pure formless awareness, I will enter fully into it. And my separated self-concept will disappear in this pure formless awareness of perfect love. So he's saying here that we are messengers of spirit. It is within us, and we are here to extend it. And as we extend it, we expand fully into it ourselves and lose all notion of separation.
Yeah. So it's pointing us to the highest, possible state of awareness in which the separated self-concept will disappear in this pure formless awareness of perfect love. So most people will say, yeah, I want happiness, I want love, I want peace, I want joy, but they won't accept that they have to disappear as any kind of separate identity to have that. This course is saying there's no other way. Separated self-concept must disappear if you're going to have pure formless awareness of perfect love. There's no other way. As long as you have a separated self-concept, that pure formless awareness of perfect love is denied. So it's a very simple teaching, but a very so-called radical one, because it's asking for, it's an all or nothing. It's not saying you can hang on to any of your separated self-concept. And many of these, structures, constructs. So as I was mentioning, the psychology that Deborah was studying, a lot of those psychological models are still rooted in the ego. They're not talking about deconstructing your whole self-concept. They're talking about trying to improve some kind of self-concept. Or let's improve it. And it's just saying, no, you can't really improve the separated self-concept. It's just false, and you need to see it as such and let it all go. Do away with it entirely to invite pure formless awareness of perfect love fully back in. And, that's the non-dual teaching of the Course. That is very advanced psychotherapy. It's the most advanced psychotherapeutic system on the planet, which transcends all the others, like, Freud and Adler and some of the others I mentioned. Because it goes to, ultimate reality, talks about ultimate meaning and purpose. So way beyond, anything the ego has invented. Okay, so lovely section, really. It's beautiful, beautiful language. She's just pointing us into this highest state of unity awareness, and the words direct us into that state. It's a nice warm-up to lesson 353. So let's go into that. So Elaine, if you can read the lesson in the original and then the alternative, kindly.
My
Key
eyes,
idea.
my eyes, my tongue, my hands, my feet today have but one purpose: to be given Christ to use to bless the world with miracles. And My eyes, my tongue, my hands, and my feet have only one purpose today, to be used by my true self to bless the world with corrections.
Oh, so what's he saying in this one? That everything is given to the one purpose. Everything I do, all of my abilities. He's talking about the physical senses here. This would apply equally to the psychic abilities we talked about earlier. They have only one purpose: to be used by my true self or Christ to bless the world with miracles or corrections. So this would be totally in alignment with the prayer to be truly helpful. And we be truly helpful and just bless the world with corrections. That's all I'm here to do. Okay, so let's have a look. Very short and sweet. These final lessons are just one paragraph, just to point us into this. It's a state of mind, pointing us into that state of mind with the words. They're very brief, and then ideas that the experience takes over. We don't need a lot of words. So, John, if you can read that in the original alternative of that first paragraph.
Father, I give all that is mine today to Christ, to use in any way that best will serve the purpose that I share with him. My source, I give all that I have today to my true self, to use in any way that will best serve the purpose that I share with it. Nothing is mine alone, for he and I have joined in purpose. Nothing is mine alone, for I have joined with it in this purpose. Thus has learning come almost to its appointed end. So has learning come almost to its inevitable end. A while I work with him to serve his purpose. For a while I still work with my true self to serve its purpose. Then I lose myself in my identity and recognize that Christ is but myself. Then I lose my separate self in my true identity and recognize that I am only my true self.
From the top.
My source, I give all that I have today to my true self to use in any way that will best serve the purpose that I share with it. Nothing is mine alone, for I have joined with it in this purpose. So has learning come almost to its inevitable end. For a while I still work with my true self to serve its purpose. Then I lose my separate self in my true identity and recognize that I am only my true self. So he's reinforcing the message that we give everything over to Spirit, and in that merging with the universe, we travel a little bit further in the world, and then we completely let go of our separate self.
It's a lovely passage. These last lessons are lovely because they're really pointing us to that final ending state, aren't they? Just guiding us in there with the words. So learning is almost there. He's saying you're almost there, still working with your true self to serve its purpose. So we still, but very much rooted in the true self, and our only purpose is to perceive correctly and to bless others with that perception, to bring healing into this crazy dream. So for a while we're going to do that, and then eventually you're just going to fade away. Even that's going to be undone, and any sense of separate self, just lose my separate self and my true identity, and recognize that Christ is but myself, that I'm only my true self. Which is the outcome of this course. And you identify only with the true self. He's then saying, well, inevitably God's going to take the final step. In other words, pure formless awareness of perfect love will come in time, and you'll just kind of merge into that awareness. So your task is to identify more and more with the true self and stay in its thought system, which gives you true perception, which is the Christ vision or miracles or corrections or forgiveness or letting go. Well, that whole process is salvation, enlightenment, satori, rebirth, or awakening, whatever you want to call it. It's all part of this process. Okay, so any other thoughts on this lesson? 353. John, Elaine, any thoughts, comments?
No, it's very, very comforting, very, very pleasant.
Yeah, they are. It changes the tone towards the end, so it's less about the ego, it's more about the state beyond all limits, beyond all ego. And that's what he's pointing us into. And so these are really invitations. It's very short little sutras. It's a sutra style of the East, which is just a sentence or two, where it just points you into a state very briefly, and then because it's so brief, it helps one just to go into the pure experience of it and not sort of engage the intellect too much. So that's the kind of tradition he's drawing on here, to help us to go actually into these states and experience them. And so that's what we'll do now. Let's do a meditation on this to close the session, shall we?
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Okay. Happy with that, John?
Yeah, happy with that.
Okay, so this is a meditation on today's lesson, 353. It's 20 minutes to really practice the lesson and experience what it's pointing to. So just sitting comfortably, your feet shoulder width apart, your back straight. Cup your hands in your lap, you can close your eyes. And start off by taking a nice deep breath in through the nose. So breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises. Subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Just pausing at the top of the inhale. Smile. Scan your mind. Just noticing thoughts, emotions, related body sensations going on. Remind yourself, today's lesson, that my eyes, my tongue, my hands, and my feet, so my whole body, has only one purpose today: to be used by my true self to bless the world with miracles or corrections. To be used by Christ or true self to bless the world with corrections. So, on the truth of that, exhale and have a sense of releasing any of your own darkness, lack, limitation. Imagine you blowing it out like dark clouds or black smoke. Out of your mouth, just leaving you going, gone. And just rest here for a few moments in this sacred state. Just being rooted completely in your true self, your true identity. And now listen to this short prayer. So you're going to breathe in as you listen to me speak each sentence, and then when I pause, you're going to exhale out through your nose and speak the sentence aloud as an affirmation. And put one hand on your heart center as you breathe in to really embrace, accept the energy of accepting this divine energy as you breathe in. So say, my source, I give all that I have today to my true self. My source. And repeat as you exhale, I give all that I have today to my true self. Breathing in again. To use in any way will best serve the purpose that I share with it. Breathing in again. And use in any way that best will serve the purpose that I share with it. So I give all that I have today to my true self to use in any way that will best serve the purpose that I share with it. Exhale on the truth of that out through your nose. Exhale to repeat those words. Feel the true self in you arising. And breathing in again. Deep full inhale breath. You can put one hand on your heart center to enhance the impact of the breath. Breathing it in. It's love and light to your heart center. And nothing is mine alone. Nothing is mine alone. For I have joined with it in purpose, this true self. Exhale. Nothing is mine alone. I have joined with it in this purpose. Breathing in again. Thus as learning come almost to its appointed end, so as learning come almost to its inevitable end. Breathe in on the truth of that as you repeat those words. Exhale and repeat those words. So as learning will come almost to its inevitable end. Saying it's a done deal, it's inevitable. You must eventually learn the truth. For a while, I still work with my true self to serve its purpose. Breathe in on that. Breathe in the purpose, which is love. And I lose my separate self For a while, I still work with my true self to serve its purpose. And then I lose my separate self and my true identity. And recognize that I am only my true self. Recognize that I'm only this self. There is no other self. So then I lose my separate self and my true identity and recognize that I'm only my true self. So breathe in this true self, Christ in you, the singular awareness. It's only one awareness. I lose my separate self and my true identity and recognize that I'm only my true self. Exhale on the truth of that. Just blowing it out with the breeze of your breath into the nothingness that it really is. Just going, gone. Lower stomach into the spine. Expel the last remaining air out. Just rest. In the stillness and peace. In a few moments. Nowhere else to go, nothing else to do. Just imagine. From someone as a perfect love enveloping you, feel it in your heart, mind. So just sink into this true self. Self connects you with your source. So you start merging into the source, which is pure formless awareness of perfect love, naturally. If any thoughts just seem to arise and creep into this lovely, empty, open, spacious awareness, just breathe into them. Remind yourself that my eyes and my tongue, my hands and my feet have only one purpose today, to be used by my true self to bless the world with correction. So all of these things can be corrected, can let them go. Again, just so lose your separate self and your true identity and recognize that you are only your true self. So I'm only my true self and I lose my separate self and my true identity. Recognize that I'm only my own true self. Just sinking a bit deeper. And so just gently coming back now. This deep state of awareness, just bring some attention back into your breath and the body, the senses and the world. So just breathing in, count of 1, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises and the subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Clench the sphincter muscle, lock the energy in. Pull the energy up your spine into your heart center. So just count to 2, let it go, exhale. And through the mouth, notice the air flowing out, chest and the stomach suck back in. Notice the energy subsiding back down from the crown of your head, down the front channel of your body into on the count of 2, you just notice the weight of your body pressing down into the chair and your feet touching the ground. Just soak this deep state of pure formless awareness in. Accept it, anchor it in. Just your senses can't really affect it at all. So whatever you smell, taste, touch, feel, doesn't really matter. It's just what matters is the underlying awareness. It's the only thing that really does matter. Anchor the state in. Nice, deep, calm, peaceful state. If you need to top yourself up, you can apply today's lesson. Again, listen to a breath break if you need it, which I've sent you. And or a longer meditation, which is also there in the Telegram group and accessible on email. And that should keep you in this state of truth, being connected to your true self. So anchor the state in. It's a very deep, calm, peaceful state. Really nothing to it. It's just a state of awareness, kind of anchored in that, rooted in it. So it's how peaceful and loving, joyful it is. And so it is. So on the count of 3 now, you're going to open your eyes. Just take a minute to look around, noticing the various objects in the room around you. Without attachment. So there's no judgment. You don't need to name, label, judge these things in any way. They just kind of sit there. You're aware of this deep peace that underlies them. So this is the peace of God. It's been called the surpasses all understanding, the ground of being. Some philosophers would call it, we call it pure formless awareness, perfect love. Doesn't matter what you call it, all matters. So it's there and you can access it, access to it, can access it. So just observe any object in the room for a few seconds. Notice this deep peace, stillness. Look at another object. There's the same underlying peace and stillness. No matter what it is you look at, just randomly look at anything, do that for a few seconds, notice. Notice it without judgment. It's the key point of the exercise. So notice what you're hearing, touching, tasting, feeling. So none of these things can really affect this deeper peace. Notice that. It's a peace of God that surpasses all understanding, as the Apostle Paul called it. Ground of being, as some philosophers would call it. And you're training your mind to just stay rooted in this awareness. So just stay rooted in this. You can close your eyes. That's helpful. To really connect with this awareness, then you can open them. Maybe you can notice that there's really no diminishment. So just anchor all this in. This is the true self. It's very peaceful. It's very calm. It's very loving. This is your true nature. Say, I am the true self. My eyes, my tongue, my hands, my feet have only one purpose today: to be used by my true self. Be used by my true self to bless the world with corrections. So exhale. Have a sense of this. This will help you to stay rooted in your Christ self and true self. Not just now, but on into the evening and tomorrow. This is what I wish for you. A very peaceful, connected time. So that brings us to the end of the meditation and today's session. So thank you, John, Elaine. Good
Thank
session.
you. Yeah, very good session. Thank you.
Yeah. And
Yeah, thank you, John. Oh, thank you, Elaine.
Thank you, John.
Yeah. Okay. So just looking ahead to tomorrow, do you prefer, I think, can we do an evening session?
Yeah, yeah, that's
6 o'clock
good.
same time, John, if you want to join us. Most welcome. Anytime
Thank
from.
you.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining.
Namaste. Good night.
Namaste.
Good night.
Okay,
Namaste.
namaste.
Bye for now.
Yes, now, John.
Cheers, John. So thank you to Elaine and John for joining this session. If you enjoyed the session, then there's a few ways you can go a bit deeper. So I'm running a masterclass this Sunday evening, which will explain more about the Art of Letting Go course. So starting again in less than 2 weeks. It's a 6-week introductory course, which is life-changing in its own right, but it's the introduction to the whole 1-year Art of Letting Go program, which we take a deep dive into A Course in Miracles, really unpack it and start to understand it. So if you'd like to do that and study the course and in more depth, go to our website. That's theaolt.com. That's theaolt.com to find out more and register for this free masterclass. And you can also get some of the material that I shared, the daily quote and the related teachings that you saw in the email on Telegram sent to you via Telegram. So every day, daily free live inspirational quote, mind training lesson, and at least one meditation, which is a few minutes long. So go to lifebuild.com, that's LIFEBUILD.com to sign up to that. And you'll receive a daily message in Telegram. And finally, if you liked this video, like to get more of this, then do subscribe to the channel and you'll be notified whenever I go live, which is 6 days a week. So you can just log in on YouTube and listen to the live stream. So yeah, subscribe to the channel and take one of the other steps. Go to thealg.com or lifebuild.com. The URLs are below in the comments box if you're looking at this video on YouTube. So just click the links and take you there, do your thing, and I hope to connect with you on the inside soon. So thanks for watching or listening again, and namaste, which means the true self, true enlightened and peaceful self in me acknowledges and honors that same true enlightened peaceful self in you.